Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian own, nothing control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is Trust Christian own, nothing control everything. Definitely appreciate you all today. We're talking about Trustee Psychology, episode 773. Appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Really excited about doing this episode. As you all know, a lot of the episodes that we do are very niche, very focused in on trusteeship. So we're going to stick with it. And we're really going to talk about something that could be a rather broad subject when it comes to trusteeship. When you guys talk about trusteeship, are we talking about, being a steward, and what does that psychology look like as opposed to a beneficiary mindset? So we can definitely have these conversations. We are going to have this conversation out in the public, as we usually do, and because it's not legal advice, financial advice. We're just having conversations in the public. You're a trustee, so what's the psychology? The psychology of a trustee, Trust Christian and the Vault. The psychology? We talked about this on one of the previous episodes recently. When you're assessing talent, you're doing personality tests on the people that you're doing business with, the people that are joining the family estate, the people that are coming through the family estate. They're getting personality assessments done on them. Some people say, oh no, but most of the time at the top, it's all love. It's all do it for sure. So let's talk about that today. Let's talk about, as a trustee, the psychology looks like what? The psychology for a trustee looks like, hey, some trustees understand their fiduciaries, so they're taking a fiduciary mindset towards things, which means an arm's length distance dealing. They understand that this is business, it's not personal. That's the first major hurdle to get over. Not taking things personal. Moving from that position forward, being a senior trustee, moving into, senior trustee positionship. Trustees, you gotta be a trustee. Well, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm a trustee." Even if you're not the trustee, you got someone else being a trustee for your estate. That's what they're being. What is their psychology? What does their psychology look like? The psychology of the trustees that we engage with are taskmasters that are focused on the numbers. See, trustees surprisingly got some of the most open minds on the planet. Why? Because they're the ones investing in the good things and investing in the not so good things. Why? Because they're operating in trusteeship. No one knows that it's them. They don't know it's the same person. They don't know because they're not talking about persons. And a person is a corporation. A person is a trust. So they understand that as a trustee. How many people understand these things as a trustee? Are you operating as a trustee? Are you operating as a steward? Or are you operating as, hey, we're just going to wing it, see how it all turns out? Now, we got some trustees that we've had go through the program a while ago, and we stay in contact with quite a few. But one that we're thinking about right now in particular, this is a group of maybe like 5 people, and they're in the same family, and definitely not. They have actually 2 generations. Actually, there's 3 generations on the line. So you got the grandmother, and then you have the middle, and then you have the grandchildren, and that's major. When you get that level of cross generational training, you get a psychology. You can't be surprised if they make it. Yeah, not if, but when they make it more and greater than what they are. But you can't be surprised when things tip the iceberg with these type of families. See, it's funny. We were actually on the line with an investor earlier today, and hey, it is what it is. He said my mom, she used to clean houses for a living, and then before she died, she had 16 properties, 16 rental properties that she had. So it's like, okay, your mom passed you along. some assets. And so now, what do you think they did? They went into the same industry. And that's that. That's that. Okay. So the guy is he's in the industry. He's investing in real estate like his mom. He's done he's doing multi-family. He does everybody loves multifamily. So you get trustees. People might not be aware. Oh man, trust Christian. Everybody says go into real estate, but not really. But when you get into the private sector, you definitely do see a lot of even guys like him, where their families are making money in real estate as opposed to just going into traditional industries. And it's like, well, what's the difference? And there's definitely a massive difference in one business versus the other. And so we deal with it, and we just, we're very, tenuous on talking about it in the public, when it comes to the real estate industry, because we don't really believe in that. So what happens is you get these valuations in the sector that these guys are calling it a cap rate and all this other stuff, and they're trying to value these valuations where even if you say, oh, how many times would they pay you? These guys in the real estate sector for a certain assets, they're asking for 20 times multiple. And that's a little high at times, depending on the sector that you're in, but 20 times is pretty. I mean, anybody would think like, oh man, that's pretty high. Yeah, 20 times is high. And these guys in the real estate industry swear out, you know. So we actually were on a call earlier today, and you'll always learn from good people. And so this particular individual, they said, hey, you should just interact with the brokers online, and it's definitely a secret weapon to interact with the brokers online, because the brokers, quite a few of them say they have deals. So if they're the ones that have the deals, or they do have deals, and they can increase your deal flow, then you definitely want to talk to the brokers. The only thing is, it's like the brokers are almost like agents, man. These guys are just out trying to like, they ain't doing much. Like, people think they are, but we don't want to talk about them in the public in a negative way. But it's like we'll talk to people that'll come to us for like trustee training, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, this lawyer didn't do it the way that I could do it, and I did it better." It's like, yeah, because you didn't get a really good one. You got someone, they passed the bar, sure. They just weren't, as detailed as you were about specific things. They didn't go do all the research that you did, because you did a lot of research. They didn't do that much research, and maybe they did do as much research, but they didn't still come to the research conclusions that you did. And so it's just like, okay, they're the attorney too, and you're the inside man or inside woman that understands, okay, I'm gonna read over what you guys are talking about here. Exactly. You're gonna read over it. So we could have a great conversation about those brokers. We've been thinking about that, but we were on a line with investors and brokers earlier today, and so obviously that's what you want. You want to be in environments where you're around investors and you're around what you would say deal flow makers are. But when it comes down to it, it just shows you how many assets are in the marketplace right now, and we'll never look back on this day and be able to say, oh yeah, we didn't pursue any assets. And that's just what it is right now. So many people say, oh yeah, Trust Christian, did you get the money? Did you get the money? What are you talking about? If you don't have the assets, then what difference does it make if you have the money or not? Because so many people are going to miss that wave where there's not just a transfer of wealth going on, it's a transfer of assets. The assets are what created the wealth transfer, right? And so the assets are going to be what's transferred. But how many people are able to get their hands on assets? And then when we talk about the rest of the real estate or whatever the deals are that you're going to be dealing in, whatever business industry you're going to be in, We were talking to a trustee recently, and the trustee really exposed their thought process. And we're gonna share with you, and this is part of the reason why we even did this episode, is because their psychology is to not play big, especially in trusteeship. And we could sit here and, ladies and gentlemen, we have the experience privately, so we can say that definitely it there's nothing looks the same in this sector. Nothing looks the same. So since nothing looks the same, when it comes to families engaging in this sector, the families that actually are actually doing things as well, just like in the public sector, they are actively engaged in working and finding other families and individuals to work with. That's just how that goes. So that's how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. So when we're talking about being in this sector, oh, I want to be in trusteeship. Okay, no one's saying you gotta go big or you gotta go home. What we are saying though is, ladies and gentlemen, the bigger the dream, the bigger the trusteeship. That just goes together. Trustee psychology. Uh, y'all want us to take off on the jet right now? Is who's listening live or listening to replay? Y'all want us to take off in the jet right now or what? Because sometimes, you can have a lot of like conversations that like, oh yeah, we're just standing outside the jet. We didn't get on it yet. We're just gonna stand outside the jet and have a real, you know, conversation before you get on the jet, because the conversation that we're gonna have on the jet is not the same conversation, ladies and gentlemen. So if you listen to live, type into the chat if you want to get on the jet right now, because the thought process that we're having is very like, it's very basic, in nature. Just, hey, where are we going here? Like, oh, okay, well, we're going to the place where we understand that trusteeship is trusteeship. Trusteeship requires us to, it's like an entrepreneur. A lot of people say, oh yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, if you're an entrepreneur, then there's a psychology that comes with it. There's a psychology that comes with that. Right, there's a psychology that comes with being in a certain position, trusteeship, X, Y, and Z. So here we go. Let's jump into it. So, okay, Trust Christian. Trust Christian, I want to know about when you jump on a jet, what is it like? Who are we talking to and what are we talking about? Well, here we go. First things first. Say we get on a jet, right? And we're ready to pull off. And we pull off. Now we're in the air. What are we talking about in trustee psychology? Well, surprisingly, definitely, we're talking about the psychology and trusteeship when we're on a jet. We're definitely going to have a conversation about trusteeship. That's always going to come up because that's pretty much all you're dealing with. But for example, somebody will say, oh yeah, you sit around a lot of senior guys. Someone young could throw out a question like, what does the word grit mean to you? The word grit. What does the word resilient mean to you? Some of the seniors might throw out that word just to test out the group to see where the psychology is of the group. So they'll say like, hey, I want you to share with me what this word means to you. So one of the words could be stewardship. They'll throw out that word sometime, and you just have to, let them know what you think of the word stewardship and what you think that is. So it's not that they're just testing your psychology, but they are seeing what your psychology is. And so, okay, here we go. To you, like, say you want to test a trustee out and see what their psychology is like. Just ask them like, are they a long-term thinker or a short-term thinker? And like, it's more than just asking them that basic question. You might figure it out how to like say it better, quote unquote. Meaning like you might ask them a question that has more of a certain type of relatability to it, but point being is nah, for sure. You ask people how they've solved problems before. Trustee psychology definitely encourages us to do that. Some people are, a lot of trustees are having to quote unquote do interviews, and it's like, oh, Trust Christian, I don't know how to do an interview. Okay, you can learn it. You can learn it for sure. And Trustee psychology is all about that. It's all about learning. If you when you like get trustees when they first come in, the question is how coachable are they? And that's the question. See, the thing about it is very inverse because a lot of trustees, if you don't take ownership and quote unquote, no pun intended, then it's like, well, how do you expect to get the results that you want? Well, maybe you don't. So some trustees don't understand that that yeah, a lot of the stuff that you end up engaging in such trusteeship is definitely psychological. It's almost like we were talking to a trustee the other day, and we were talking to them, and it was like, well, this is X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z, their psychological profile. It's like, really? Yeah, this is their psychological profile. Really? Yes. They're asking questions and doing things based off of a person's psychological profile. They're asking questions to find out a person's psychological profile. The trusteeship definitely all the way, 100%. Oh, trust Christian, that's what's really going on. Yeah. Uh, Not only talking about not just talking about work. You're also going to hear trustee psychology talk about recovery. It's not always talked about in every environment, but usually in like well-off environments, you're always going to hear them talk about recovery. There's going to be like some type of like situation going on in a good way, like a day spa type thing. And so they recently, maybe like in the past 5 plus years, they've maybe they've always had it, in wealth environments, because we're first gen, we don't mind saying that, but uh yeah, what we say in the wealth environments nowadays, there's a lot of push towards like just having like a health day. If it's a multi-day conference, they're talking about like health. And some people say, oh, is they talking about like moving around and going to the gym? It's like, no, they talking about mental health. So it's psychological once again. It's talking about like elite performance or high performance individual thought process. Definitely. Really trust Christian? 100%. That's what's being talked about in elite environments. Is your psycho? How is your psychology as a trustee? Really? Yep. What is your psychology as a trustee? But how many people are on top of that? How many people know the psychological profile? What's a psychological profile? First of all, a lot of trustees have done Myers-Briggs. If you haven't done Myers-Briggs, that's like saying, "Oh, I don't know what the four love languages or the love language book is." All right, great. You don't need to know that neither. But there's a lot of good books. We are tapped in with the mentors. They pretty much talk about the Myers-Briggs. You could do the Myers-Briggs test. That gives a pretty open swath. But we don't want to isolate it to one type of test, ladies and gentlemen, or one type of assessment. There's a lot of assessments out here to help people hone in on their skill and become the best individual that they can become at what they're doing. So, ladies and gentlemen, it comes down to, uh, you know, how well are you able to, uh, how well are you able to, like we'll say in our sector, how well are you able to assess risk? We had a trustee come to us recently, said, "Oh, Trust Christian, I have a problem assessing risk." Exactly, and that's the challenge for everybody. Until you overcome it, you gotta be better at assessing risk, and that's what it comes down to. And that can be something that some people may not be excited to do for the rest of their life, is assess risk, basically, especially from a trustee perspective. It's not just a traditional perspective, it's a trustee perspective, so it's just different. And some people may not want to do that. That's, it could be a bear on their back type deal, because it involves not just you're actually doing stuff for the benefit of the beneficiary. Whereas, like, say you just doing traditional business things, you might not be doing it for the next generation. You're just doing it for yourself and cash flow. Some businesses you may just do for cash flow. So it's an interesting perspective for sure. to see the thought process that you have to have, or what we call a psychology, a psychological profile of a trustee. Some people say, "Oh man, I don't know how my psychological profile builds up and this, that, and the third." Well, this is actually quite easy. Um, we share with trustees to utilize the AI to give them someone in the public markets that has a trustee mindset and a psychological profile. So even if you were to do like a Warren Buffett, he clearly is a trustee of Berkshire Hathaway, and so in turn you would just model yourself behind his trusteeship, the way he's handled it. He does have a business partner that passed away. His name's Charlie Munger, and a lot of people are familiar with Charlie Munger, but once again, he's a senior trustee with a trustee psychology that can be studied and implemented. And he wrote a book. One of them is called, what is it called? Charlie's Almanac. That's what it's called. If you guys want to study, some people say, "Oh, Trust Christian, do you read books? Tell us about the books. We want to know about books. All this stuff about books." A lot of people would say they're not even reading a book, but okay, let's talk about the books that we're supposed to be reading, which is one of them is called Charlie's Almanac. Some people may say, "Oh, Trust Christian, what are we doing here? We gotta read this." First of all, this book alone, Charlie's Almanac, this is one of those ones. What do you want to say? This is dang near at probably like a major school that you gotta read Charlie's Almanac. But if it's not at a if it's not at a major college, it's one of those books that, yes, private family wealth. We're all reading Charlie's Almanac. It's not even like a have to, but it is something that a lot of us have read. When you go into the private family wealth spaces, Charlie's Almanac is not a long book. He's basically got like 12 or 13 principles or something like that, and he's just got some principles in a book, and they pretty much are universal principles. And he tells you a few things in the book that can really like help you to not make mistakes. But as far as like making a ton of money, that's going to be on you. But he definitely has like a very risk management, trustee mindset, trustee psychology. uh, just 100%. Somebody say, "Oh, I need to know what a trustee mindset or trustee psychology look like." Just go read Charlie's Almanac, and he may not say it's trusteeship, but it's 100% trusteeship because he's talking about it from a fiduciary's perspective. So a lot of people say, "Oh, Trust Christian, I don't know what to read." Then they get that, or find out about that, and they're like, "Oh, I gotta read a book." Yep, this is Charlie's Almanac, no doubt about it. It's one of those ones that if you went to a public school, on the public side for college, you may have gotten this book. But outside of that, why would you have gotten the book if you ain't go to a private school or you in a private family? Why would you have gotten a book? The book is not even that. It's not a number one bestseller type deal. Like no defamation to it, but it's a different type of book. It's maybe a number one seller for like Financial Times, but we're talking about like different type of book. It's different. It's a financial book. Once again, definitely. Was it his name? Charlie Munger is Charlie's Almanac. It's like actually it's the modern day richest man in Babylon. But we think what's that one guy? Did Steve Ballmer write a book? Steve Ballmer, we think pretty much. Oh, it may have been Horowitz. Actually, we think it's a Horowitz. Either way, these guys. The mindset is different, ladies and gentlemen. Is a trustee psychology associated with it for sure. Even Bill Gates. Bill Gates definitely is trustee psychology 101. I mean, if somebody says, "Oh, I wouldn't study Bill Gates first," trustee psychology is like, okay, sure. That's something that we all pretty much had to read because he took a company, modern day tech public, and still considered one of the bigger companies. And he gives you a story that you can read and see the deal that he did in the beginning. You can pretty much see his who gave him money from the beginning. You can go right back to those organizations if they're still around. So you can see it's like going over to what's that one guy's company called, Facebook. You could go over there and see his journey of how he raised capital initially, and we don't want to say he went public, but he raised capital initially, And a lot of people would try to say, "Oh yeah, he's just a tech guy." It's like, he's actually more of a businessman than whether we want to say he's a tech guy. Same thing with Bill Gates. Like, the reason why you're good at business because you understand that I just need to be great at business. You don't have to do everything in the business, but you got to be great at business. You have to know, okay, so we're great at business, and so these guys definitely. Once we're talking about trustee psychology. Somebody says, "Oh, I want to know about a trustee. Give me a senior trustee I can study in the public." And some people may find those as big, far off examples, but where do you want us to go with the conversation to not say major financial relationships? Appreciate New Jersey for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Jersey for tuning in live, listening to replay. People say, "Oh, who do I study? What's good trustee psychology?" And it's interesting because those are examples where you actually see success in front of your face. Like, some people may say, "Oh, Elon Musk, how's he a great trustee?" Like, or he has trustee psychology. Like, of course he does. His is actually, he's the family member that he's actually the one that has to prove something to the family. He has to prove something to the family. Now, whether he took money from the family to start his companies, those are questions that you can go see publicly. And, this is the type of personality, yeah, the psychology where they feel like they have to prove something to the family and then after a while, they're the rogue family member that's just doing, they're probably not utilizing the family's money, but they got the family name back to prominence where it just may be one of those things. The family wasn't really, trying to do anything new. They were just quiet with the money. Ultra high net worth investors. But one of the sons wanted to go out and wanted to build a name for himself. Clearly, Elon's done that. He's built a name for himself. He may have used family funds in the beginning. Maybe he didn't. Either way, let's just say he didn't do it, or he doesn't take family funds. So he doesn't take the family funds, but he actually is on a side where he can raise public funds. And so when we talk about trustee psychology, the biggest challenge that some people are going to run into, like a massive brick wall, is that you don't have the relationships. So how do you get the relationships? You got to pay to get in the room, so you got to pay somebody that got the relationships to give you the relationships. That's just how it works. That's just how it works. It's like, Judge Christian, tell me the secret. I'm trying to learn the secret. Tell me the secret to getting the relationships. You gotta finagle your way in the room, or you gotta have the relationships through someone else. And there's nothing wrong with that, because usually relationships are going to end up coming through other people anyways. So where you get in a certain sector, a lot of people know each other. This is an interesting thing, when you get over here, and some people say, "Well, where's the money hang out?" And we do our best to share where the money's hanging out. The trustee psychology says, "Own nothing, control everything." Let's talk about it now. So if we're talking about own nothing, control everything, that means the clothes that you're wearing, you're never wearing what you want to wear. You're wearing the uniform of the family estate. So where does the family estate have interest in holdings at? Now, we're going to break it down. Might be a little too high. We're still in the air. We're definitely at 40,000 feet. Why? Because when you understand what we're talking about, when we're talking about wealth building, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about asset protection. We're talking about doing business with people that are in trusteeship. That's just bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. So here we go. Who's in trusteeship? Alright, back in the day, you maybe still can see this, they're called warrants. But they used to sell warrants to like tennis matches. The seats and stuff. You got, what else do you got? What else do you got? You got, those are tennis matches, the golf course, the master stuff. Well, think about it, you're paying to go either watch someone play golf, or you have a golf membership. So that's the uniform. Man, we won a lot today. We won a lot today with some senior trustees once again. These some different type of guys. These guys literally were degrading sports and tried to promote rugby, even though it's actually one of the probably more violent out of all of them. Said it was the best one. And it's just, these are senior trustees, multimillionaire managers. Like, one of them sitting in the room was, he pretty much a heart surgeon. That's just bottom line. So if you've never been a heart surgeon, you don't know what that is. Is a heart surgeon. He's a heart surgeon. He's somebody that does real live heart surgery. So cardiac, whatever you want to call him. He's a heart surgeon. So this guy really does that. But he's in the room with senior trustees because when you, and this is what we're really excited about. There's really no lack of money, and that's what a lot of trustees don't really understand. We were talking to somebody earlier. They were like, "Oh, you're talking about the financial relationships," but they were maybe talking about it in a different context in which we're talking about it, but we're talking about it in a respect of, yes, you want to have those relationships lined up. And we even let the other party on the line know that we were on there. We're like, sure, everybody wants $1 million check writer, everybody wants a $3 million check writer, everybody wants a $10 million check writer, right? But you also want to have people that can write the $150,000 to $250,000 checks. You want those people in the mix too. So, Trust Christian, where do they hang out? We talked about two places: tennis, golf. Uh, some people would say, do they hang out at the gym, like a real fitness gym or something? But usually it's like more high-end gyms. And then once again, ladies and gentlemen, some people say, oh, your Trust Christian is that's the family uniform too. Gotta take it right. So, where are we at with the? Where are we at with? Okay, if I'm a trustee and I'm getting the right environments, where are we going from there? When you get in the right environment, you gotta open up your mouth. Sure, you can observe once or twice. We got trustees, we told them about country clubs. They went and got caught in the country club and they found out the country club had a dress code. What we talking about? We already kind of let it out before, but somehow they ran into a wall. Like, oh, they said I couldn't wear this here one time. Exactly. What makes you think you should be wearing that to a business club? First of all, you see the other people in the room should be wearing what they're wearing. Not because you have to, but it's a uniform. So, okay, they didn't do their homework. They didn't really know it. There's nothing wrong with that. They didn't know it. Okay, well, now we know. So how many times did we go back in that room and max out the room by maxing out the relationships, maxing out having conversations? We talked to trustees. Here we go. This is it, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's called Trustee Psychology, right? Right. So the Trustee Psychology would mean that the family estate has a mission statement. Oh, trust Christian. Really? Yeah, and it only needs to be one sentence. That's just being honest. So you get a mission statement for the family and or for the family estate, and you max out. Now some people say, "Oh, trust Christian, it's just maybe it's not as easy as it sounds. It may be harder than it is." Okay, well, you have tools that can help you create a one-line mission statement. But for sure, you have to have a mission statement. It's going to make it so much more easier to operate as a trustee because now you have a guiding line, a guiding principle. When you don't have these things, man, oh man, the family estate is going to be in ship shambles. That's just bottom lines. It is like, do you have a family mission right now? Think about it. If you work for a company, the company got a mission, whether you know it or not. So what about you? Does the family estate have a mission statement? Oh, I got a mission statement, Trust Christian. I got had a mission statement. Yep, you got a mission statement. Once you have the mission statement, I mean, pretty much most of the trustees in our sector would be really proud and happy to know. We kind of have it as like an unwritten expectation right now, but it's still along the lines of, how do we say this? Uh, if you're in our sector and you got a mission statement, you it's not to say you're in the top tier, but it's definitely in the top 25% quartile for sure. Like, wow, think about how many people you run into that don't have a mission statement. We're aware of that. So we go 80-20, and we'll say top 25 percentile is actually doing having a mission statement, reading over the mission statement every day, dang near at one point understand that they actually memorize the mission statement because it's only one sentence and it's the family mission statement. So they just end up remembering it. And it's a different type of way to have the family move for sure. So we appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listen to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listen to replay. Feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, it's Christian at trustchristian.com. Look forward to hearing from you all. Peace and joy.